Hello, all, and welcome back to the NFL Quick Talk Podcast. As always, you can find the show on YouTube and Spotify. Subscribe and follow. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. We are trying to hit 100 subscribers on the channel. It'll go a long way in helping us build the channel here. And let's get right into the breakdown of the NFL Week 3. As always, we start off with a quick rundown with the injury report. Not as many injuries this week. Quarterback Derek Carr sustained a shoulder injury in his game versus the Packers. He is considered week to week, and if I were to guess, probably will not start next week, but he will be ready in the coming weeks. Quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo is in the concussion protocol after sustaining a hit versus the Steelers, and probably will play next week. Linebacker David Ojabo for the Ravens hurt his ankle. No timetable on him just yet. And two Chargers players very significant for their team. Wide receiver Mike Williams, who left the game with a left leg injury. It was in a brace last time I checked. And when there's a timetable on that, I'll get that out to you guys as well. And safety Derwin James Jr. had a hamstring injury. No timetable on him either. Both are out until said otherwise. And that was the injury report. Let's go straight into our first game breakdown. The Cowboys at the Cardinals. Cardinals win 28-16. And for the Cowboys, it was really the red zone, inefficiency. Dak Prescott proved very costly as they were trying to make a comeback. Late in the fourth, he threw an interception in the end zone, which really nullified their chances at coming back. And, what's new? Dak Prescott choking away games that they really could have won if he would have just played a little bit better. But really, it's a whole team effort, and it's not always just on him. But that interception, he threw it into triple coverage. It wasn't pretty at all. And they really have to get better scoring in the red zone. This has been a issue for them, albeit the season is early, but it's been an issue for them all season. And it's just been masked by some of their blowout wins. And it's something that they really have to do better at going forward. And the Cowboys defense looks very lackluster with the exception of Micah Parsons. Of course, he's one of the greatest players out there on the defensive side of the ball. There was busted coverages everywhere and missed tackles everywhere. And they just weren't pursuing the ball like they usually are, like they were in the Giants game. They were great at it. They're just not doing it as well now. Going over to the Cardinals side, though, their play calling for the most part was excellent. They were scheming up players like James Conner really well, getting the ball to him in space, good blocking for the most part, and they were scheming up players like Marquise Brown really well. All credit to head coach Mike Gannon on his first career win. Props to him for that. Colts at Ravens. Colts pulled this one out in overtime, 22-19. And the Ravens' offense was inconsistent. They weren't getting the points that they should have in the time frame. Though Lamar Jackson did play pretty well as a rusher. He rushed for over 100 yards. Not pretty well. He played really well. Rushing the ball, going over for 100 yards for the first time on the ground this season. And that's what they need him to do to win the games. But, he was a little bit inefficient passing, throwing for 200 yards, going for 22 and going 22 for 31. Sorry about that. But besides Lamar Jackson, the run game was very inconsistent. You had 11 attempts to Gus Edwards and only 51 yards. Melvin Gordon did worse. He got 10 rushing attempts with 32 yards. And really, the Baltimore's been struggling with injuries. They've had players like Odafe Owe out, Tyler Linderbaum, Marlon Humphrey, OBJ, and then during the game they lost players like Rashad Bateman, Gus Edwards, like I just mentioned, and David Ojabo, who I mentioned before. And they really need to sort out this injury problem that they've been having. This is kind of a Ravens tradition to lose quality players due to injuries, and they really have to fix it. Otherwise, these injuries, you're going to lose to teams like the Colts. Even though you should beat them on paper, you're at home, you should be beating them, but you don't. Gardner Minshew played better than most people expected, I think. I didn't expect very much from him. But anyway, really the MVP of this game was Matt Gay, the Colts kicker. They got every penny out of him, and he kicked 5 field goals and they were field goals, 3 from 53 yards out, 1 from 31 yards out, and 1 from 54 yards out to seal the deal in overtime. He really played well, and other than that, the Colts offense was not great, but they managed to pull this one out. Good on the Colts for winning this one. Broncos at Dolphins. Dolphins win 70-20, and this is my game of the week. And where to start? Where to start? How about Tua Tagovailoa going 23 for 26, near perfect, 310 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he pretty much only played the first half. Or how about the 203 yards from scrimmage and 4 touchdowns for rookie Devon Achane, sorry about that, out of Texas A&M if I recall correctly. And I mean, these guys just it's one after another on the stat sheet. Even I didn't even mention Tyreek Hill. I think he had like 170 some yards and he only played the first half. And I mean, these guys just played phenomenally. I don't think they ran the same play more than 2 times. That I mean, everyone has to be incredibly smart on that team because they're running a different play pretty much every single time they go out there. They're running different plays and giving different looks, stuff like that. But on the Broncos side, this is a complete disaster. They did not look like they tackled at all during practice. They didn't. They looked like a high school team out there. Let's be quite honest with you. And they really have to just fix their team. And I mean, an 0-3 start to start the season. You blew an 18-point lead to Washington, who just got humiliated by Buffalo, and you lost to a bad Raiders team. And now it's going to be a long year for Broncos nation, and I really feel bad. They've had the pieces. This has just been a curse for the Broncos. It's really been hard to watch, and I mean they got to fix up something to be relevant. Saints at Packers. Packers pull this one out 18-17. And the Saints looked like they were going to take total control of this game. They were in total control for pretty much 3 quarters. They were out 17-0. And Derek Carr took a sack, and he had to leave. He was not flown. He was taken to a hospital for evaluation on a shoulder injury. And then after he left, the Saints offense could not sputter anything. They couldn't make anything happen with Jameis Winston. You thought he would play a little bit better. He's a solid backup, but it turned out he didn't. And then Jordan Love, he started out a little slow, but then ended up being very clutch and getting his first really signature win. I mean, beating the Bears, that's great. But, getting a first signature win as a Packers quarterback and really looking solid as the next great Packers quarterback. The MVP of this game had to have been Jordan Love. He played phenomenal in this game, and I won't even fault the Saints. The Saints didn't play a bad game per se. They didn't play very bad after, but then the offense after Derek Carr, but that's abnormal. And I mean, this was just a great game. Panthers at Seahawks. Seahawks win 37-27, and Andy Dalton started for the Panthers, coming in for the injured Bryce Young, and he played pretty darn well, throwing for 361 yards and 2 TDs and 0 interceptions. But the Panthers' run game and defense was really non-existent, and they need a lot of work if the Panthers want to win some games this year. Geno Smith passed for 300 yards while leading the offense to a very well-rounded game overall. The run game was working, the pass game was working. How much of that was how bad the Panthers defense is, I'm not quite certain, but I know that Ken Walker played extraordinarily well, rushing for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns while grabbing 3 receptions for 59 yards on 3 targets, and he played very well. He's been a great back. He just has to stay healthy, and I mean, he can be a top 10 back very easily. And then DK Metcalf putting together a DK Metcalf for performance, going for 6 receptions and 112 yards. Overall, a pretty darn good win for the Seahawks. MVP of this game got to be Ken Walker for setting the tone with that run game. Next, we have the Steelers at Raiders. Steelers win 23-18. and the Steelers were in full control of this game. They were winning 23-7 going into the fourth quarter, and I mean, they were in full control. The offense looked really good. The defense picked off Jimmy G twice at that point, and they were going to, they should have won this game by a lot more than they did, but they took their foot off the gas and they let the Raiders come back, and it took to the final 12 seconds to really ensure a win for the Steelers, as Levi Wallace got another pick. Levi Wallace picked off Jimmy G twice in this game. And going over to the Steelers side, Kenny Pickett played really well, threw for 235 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. The running game needs a lot of work, though. Najee Harris, he's had his struggles recently. Jalen Warren, they got him. The Raiders defense had him bottled up pretty well as well. Receiving wise, George Pickens had 75 yards. They're still missing that one key piece, and that's Deontay Johnson, and he is an extremely talented route runner and pass catcher, so they're really missing him right now. And then Calvin Austin had the one reception for 72 yards for the touchdown, and they finally threw the ball to Pat Freiermuth. They've been missing that tight end that he's just gone missing sometimes, pretty much this whole season. And they finally got the ball to him for a touchdown and a couple more receptions. On the Raiders side, Jimmy Garoppolo, yes, he did throw for 324 yards, but he also threw 3 interceptions. It didn't look good. They still need to get the running game going. It's not going too well. You know, he had the best back in the league in Josh Jacobs, and you can't get him the ball. Got to feed that man. Devontae Adams went off, though, for 172 yards and 2 touchdowns. He is definitely still one of the best in the league. And overall, good statement win for Pittsburgh, showing people that they can still play offense, you know. Thank you all for watching all the way to the end. And I will be putting out my Friday 5 on Friday. 5 best games going into that week. And I will be putting out more reactions just like this one for the future weeks. So you want to subscribe so that you're notified when new videos come out so that you can watch them. And thank you guys so much for going all the way through. And I will see you guys in the next one.